Hello everybody, good afternoon, and welcome. Don't panic, it's not me giving the Alternative MacTaggart lecture, but we're going to meet the star of the Alternative MacTaggart lecture in a couple of minutes. But before we bring her out on stage, let's just have a look at some of her work.
We will bring manufacturing back to this country.
Mary, Mary, why you bugging?
This is Floyd in Cardiff, next to the bloody bus stop. Give me a break.
Mary, Mary, I need your hugging.
It is like a dirty old swingers party.
Directly in my language means now. Directly in Cornwall, whenever.
You're dressing up like a 20-year-old? You look good. I'm not knocking you.
What person really and honestly has the balls to hang those balls in their house?
Well, I would.
Well, I know you would. I know you two would.
Why you bugging?
Now, you either sit at the back, shut up, or you go.
Need your hugging.
We're having a bit of a do down the shop.
I wanna find you, I gotta tell you something, so just be quiet and don't say nothing.
These are from us, from the whole of the team, because what you've done for us, not just us in Middleton, but the whole for everybody and lots of people in Britain, is absolutely priceless. And I can say this from everyone that I'm working with, and I know probably everybody in the room, but you're an absolutely wonderful person, and can I have a hug?
For all the love you've given and all the time you've given, my darling, this one's for you.
Thanks for all the help anyway, giving us the job.
It's nothing, get out.
Cheers.
It's nothing.
I really didn't expect her to cry. I thought I would have done. She's a softie.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Portas. Mary.
One way or
Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, Mary. Hi. We were both at a party late last night.
I know, I feel terrible.
Yeah, me too.
I know, but I woke up at the usual sort of 7 a.m. You know, I was about 3 hours sleep, so I just feel a bit bilious, as my mother would say.
That is very much the Is this the first time you've been at the Edinburgh TV Festival?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that thing of only getting 3 hours sleep and feeling hungover, that is very much the standard feeling here at the Edinburgh TV Festival. But thank you for taking part in this. It's the Alternative MacTaggart, so it will be, I suppose, in a way, a contrast to the MacTaggart yesterday. I think there will be an overlap in terms of some of what you're going to have to say today. I just want to talk about those clips for a second. We are going to go back to the beginning of your career, but those clips were quite interesting, I thought, because it seems to me that one of the themes of your work is having a kind of legacy and actually changing things in the real world rather than just making a piece of entertainment.
Yeah.
Is that what drives you?
Well, yeah, but I suppose the thing is, I mean, television's enabled me to do that, though. I was thinking about this because it's given me a stage to do that on, and one must never forget the power of that, and the ability to make change through TV, I find, has just been fantastic for me, actually. So when you look at my early career, although it was in retail, and I had a stage through retail in many ways, but actually the ability to take my work further has been the fact that I've been able to do it through TV. Yeah. So these challenges that have come my way have really come through that medium.
Let's talk about your early career. So Harvey Nichols, people know you were at Harvey Nichols. You were, I think I'm right in saying, on the board of Harvey Nichols as creative director before the age of 30.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
5 days.
5 days before
In fact, I remember I was here at the Edinburgh Festival because I did used to like a lot of theatre and I wasn't getting pissed, I was actually going to shows. Yeah. And I remember ringing, this was before mobile phones, from a telephone box here to find out whether I'd made it onto the board. And yeah, I had it. So I have this really vivid memory of getting in the phone box and thinking, yeah!
And your work at Harvey Nichols, just explain what your role was at Harvey Nichols.
Well, I was a creative director. I came in, I used to be the head of display at Topshop. And I was looking after 400 stores and just loved it. And Ralph Halpin, who was the chairman.
Windows, is it?
Yeah, the windows. Display, visual merchandising, and all these camp names. So, and the chairman moved me across to Harvey Nichols, because at the time, Al-Fayed had just bought Harrods and was doing this massive stuff with Harrods. So I got moved across to Harvey Nichols, and then it got bought out by a Hong Kong Chinese businessman who bought the thing for actually practically next to nothing because it was loss-making. So it wasn't making any money. I mean, Harvey Nichols in those days, I'm talking about 1990, you know, this is where if your catchment area, your store was about your catchment area, you know, so it was all about the Knightsbridge ladies. And effectively, you know, you'd go in for lunch and some old bird would be drinking a schooner of sherry and falling asleep on the banquette in the corner. And it was just fusty and it was loss-making. So this guy bought it out and he chose then who he was going to have on the board. It was tough. And he decided, and he made some, you know, got rid of some of the directors, and he said, right, we've got 3 years, we're going to turn this around. And so my job was to create the brand and what it stood for. And it was just the most exciting journey I'd ever been on, you know, ever. And we turned it around and...
In 3 years?
Within 3 years.
And was it part of the idea is obviously to broaden the base from old ladies in Knightsbridge to everyone else? I mean, what was the sort of strategy?
The strategy was, and this was at the time, you see, it's all about the marketplace and what's happening in the marketplace at the time. So at the time, this is before that real kind of luxury boom burst where everybody was buying luxury. You know, luxury was where people with money just bought it. This wasn't, you know, what happened after that was the bling culture started. And I started to see that people were buying, you know, trying to buy the designer clothes, but just the small items. And so I decided to create a store that was just built around innovation and being the first. And Harrods at the time, when we were trying to get these designers to come into Harvey Nichols, because it was all about image, the designers would only come into the store if you had the right image. Okay. You know, they weren't going to put their department in there. And I remember us trying to do a deal with Dolce & Gabbana at the time. And Harrods would go in and say, how much have Harvey Nichols bought? And they'd say that, and they said, well, we'll times it by 5. And so we just couldn't get these designer brands in. So I started to create a brand that was all about something that was about the small and the innovative. So I started to take in new young designers who were just desperate for anything but were actually going to be the future. And then I worked with artists to install art into the windows. And those became talking points. And every touch point I worked on, I tried to make about really being the first and fabulous creativity and innovation. And slowly but surely, the business built up around that. And then we went global with it.
And is it also, in terms of an overlap with television, because I assume that some of the lessons that you learned there, you then took over to your career in television. Is there an overlap with storytelling? I mean, was it partly within Harvey Nichols about storytelling as well?
It was totally about storytelling. You know, it was about associating, making consumers want to be associated with something. So if I buy into Harvey Nichols, therefore I'm pretty cool. If I've got a brand that says Harvey Nichols, I'm cool. I don't know what you'd say about it today. It's a bit kitten heels and kind of, you know, I have to be very careful because this will get quoted.
No,
that's the other thing. Someone said, you've got to be careful.
Don't be careful.
Think, oh no, that's so boring.
No, Mary, stop. What's wrong with Harvey Nichols now?
No, I just think it's lost that edge. It was the innovator. This was at a time when Selfridges was just, you know, dowdy. And I think they've taken over. You know, we were the first. It was about being the first.
So who does it target now, Harvey Nichols?
I think it's just, I'm not going to talk about the customer, that's just really negative. I just think it's lost that edge of creativity and innovation and being the first. I wouldn't go there to see what the new designers are. I wouldn't go there to see who is the latest artist.
Do you shop there at all now?
Rarely.
Okay. Sorry, the storytelling, it's about storytelling.
Yes, it's about storytelling. It's about building an image for a brand that people buy into. That's why we buy. People generally buy a product that reflects who they are, or they want to buy a product where they want to be, where they aspire to reflect their personalities. It's branding. It's the same, you know, totally with so many things across selling, anything that you're selling.
Okay, well, we'll talk about your transition into telly in a second. Let's just have a look at, here's a clip of when Harvey Nichols was on television during your time at the store.
Put it in here. Just going to put it in. Just go here. That's okay. Tomorrow they know me here all day. All right. There's a bar on the 5th floor. Might start there. Darling, I put my shoe on. Darling, you have to slow down when I'm walking in these shoes. I can't.
Eddie, what's this? What's this? What is this?
Darling, has that been there all the time? How long this thing on?
Were you involved in the decision to allow them into the show, into the store?
Yeah, I was on a shoot for a fashion show I was doing, and someone was talking about Jennifer Saunders making this TV show. So I called her and said, I hear you're doing a TV show and it's based around fashion. And she said yes. And we met, and I said, listen, I will work with you. You can have access to all the brands. I'll get you access to the designers, and we'll work together if you just name check us as the only shop. And it just, actually, once that TV show went global...
And that presumably fits with the BBC's core values.
Oh, very fun. Do you know what? I told him, don't mention that on the BBC. He just goes and says it, yeah. They didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, they didn't know that at the time.
Oh, so only Jennifer knew that. Wow, that's amazing. But was there an uptick in sales? Like, did it being
it's
in
about
that...
everything. It's about everything that comes together. This is the thing. It's not just, you can't just say one thing makes this happen. It's about a synergy of things happening. When you're developing a brand, it's about everything coming together at one point. So it's very difficult for people to say, the buying director to say, that was a brilliant jacket. I picked the right jacket, that's what made that buy. It's a real coming together of people working with a single goal and making sure that every touch point. So that could have fallen flat on its face. You know, if that show hadn't taken off and been really clever, then that could have fallen flat on its face. So there is an element of risk, but it's a synergy of all the things that you do together that make it happen.
It's quite a delicate decision for a store, a brand like that, to let cameras in generally, isn't it? I mean, there's quite a few fly on the walls now. I think there's one on Channel 4 coming down about Liberty, for example. It's quite a delicate decision for a brand to make, isn't it?
I think it is. I think yes, it is. I mean, I'm not sure what the one on Liberty is going to be like, but I think, yes, you have to hand over control, though. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Well, it's on Channel 4, and you're a Channel 4 face, and I think Jay Hunt might be here, so I imagine you think it's going to be excellent.
Yes, Richard, that's a really interesting question. Can we get some good stuff going now?
Right. Tell us how you transitioned from Harvey Nichols onto television. What was the move?
Well, actually, I'm trying to think what the move was. I set up my own business. I left Harvey Nichols, and because after 3 years, he made a lot of money, the chairman, and I thought we should have had a bit more, but nevertheless. And I thought, well, they said to me, look, you know, let's do a 5-year contract. And I thought, no, I'm going to go do my own thing. So I set up my own agency, and I started writing a column for the Telegraph on shops. But when I left Harvey Nichols, the Times ran a story calling me Mary Queen of Shops.
Which is where the name of the show came from, yeah.
Which is where, yes, but at the time we didn't know this was going to be a future show. And so I left, started writing this column, and I got a phone call. That was it. I got a phone call from Richard and Judy's show saying, would I come on to talk about the sense of smell in retail? Someone had written a book on it. And I thought, well, how many pages is in that book? What sense of smell is in retail? This Danish guy, and I said, well, I can't talk about the sense of smell in retail. What, you know, the only smell I suppose a baker's would have. And he said, no, come on. And I went on to the show, and this guy was Danish, had written the book, and it just wasn't kind of rocking, you know. And so I started talking about, you know, some of the worst retail things that I'd seen when I was going around as a secret shopper and writing my column. And I think it was, you know, Optimum. I think it was Pat Llewellyn who must have seen the show. Who just saw it? I don't know if she's here. She sent someone in to see me and had a show commissioned by Channel 5 to do a retail series, and I did a little piece to camera, and that was it. And then it went from there. And what were some of the worst retail things you saw? Oh, God, you just see it all the time. I mean, it's just, I can't remember now. I've tried to sort of blank them out, you know. I saw someone chewing a coat hanger, just literally. I thought, what's she doing? She's got one of those things in her mouth that you stop you smoking. It was a coat hanger. And she was just behind the desk, just chewing it. So, and you see them where they put their own music on. You know, I went into the body shop, which should have all been about, you know, just beautiful smells and sensuous musics and aromas. And someone had Led Zeppelin at full blast on, you know. And you just think, oh my God, you know. I mean, you could go on forever about them. I think people have become much more sophisticated. I think they've realised. One thing you want to talk about today is, I suppose, how your TV career has evolved and how you have, I think, now slightly different priorities, or at least the shows that you make have different priorities. Those early shows, the Mary Queen of Shop shows, do you want to explain what they were, what the format of those
of those shows was that you made originally?
I mean, it was a very simple format. You have a failing retail independent shop, and I go in and advise them and try and turn around their fortunes, and in doing so, hopefully they learn something and the retail shop starts to deliver sales.
And they followed, I think it's fair to say, quite a set formula in terms of the narrative of those shows. Did you feel, looking back, as though they were almost a predetermined outcome of the shows?
Well, I think people want to see success at the end. You know, most people don't want to see failure. Most people watch a show, and if you're going in and you're turning it around, you want to see success. And the other thing is, I am doing that. It's not a setup. It's you are really going in. And you're very much aware of the extraordinary hard work it is. You have to go into a business, you have to look at the marketplace, you have to look at the retailer and see, are they going to be able to do this when I'm gone? And you have to turn that business around pretty quickly, because you know within a few days the Daily Mail are going to come in and say, well, is she any good? Was she any good?
Which they do.
Yeah, which they do. You just know that that is going to happen. And it's quite a stressful thing to do, you know. And you go into these businesses and they are looking at you like, help, you should know all the answers. And so there is a format that one has to follow. There's a format that one has to follow in business. This is how you're going to do it. But that fell on its face when I did the baker, because
We're going to play a clip of.
Yeah.
And this was a really formative moment for you, I think, wasn't it? This experience when you tried to turn around a bakery shop and how that went changed your attitudes to television making, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Just tell us, who is it? We'll see this clip.
What happened was she, you know, wouldn't make change. And it's interesting, because I remember vividly choosing, I got given 3 different, you know, the researchers, we had 4,500 shops apply. This is how, you know, I knew.
What did the advert say?
I don't know.
But it's sort of, is your business failing and do you need some help?
I don't know. The researchers did that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ad would say, but it would say, look, we're looking for new businesses that need help, I would guess. 4,500 apply, and then the researchers at Optum would bring them down into different categories. And I remember there was 3 bakers, and I look at them and think, right, can I help that one? Is that one going to make it? You really, really have to think, can I go in there and do that, you know? And looking back, some of them I should have said, well, you know, you've got to close down, but that wouldn't have made a very long TV show, okay? So we wouldn't have done that. So, and I remember seeing this woman and thinking, I like you, because there's a part of you that I kind of feel slightly that I am. She got left with the baker, the husband, you know, had given up on it, and she was the matriarch, and she was working hard, she was getting up and trying to rebuild this business. She had 3 sons, and so I chose to do hers, but she just did not give me an inch. I mean, nothing, to the extent that I literally used to have to come out and have Reiki sessions afterwards to get my body back aligned. I was like that, at the back, lying, and anyway, in the end, she's chucked me out of the bakers and said, I don't want to. And I remember vividly ringing Pat Llewellyn and saying, is there enough in the can to make a show? Because I can't go back in there again.
Okay, let's have a look at a clip. We'll talk more about this. Here we go.
He says he can fit in easily 20 loads.
He couldn't do it.
No, he said he could do that.
Right, let me see.
Let you see, or what?
If he can. Let me see if he can.
But he wants to. I mean, he's inspired by it.
Well, if he's inspired by it, I'm fine. He can make it.
But a good boss empowers. A good boss will let him and make
Mary,
motivated.
please.
It's which one?
Right now, I don't want you anywhere near my shop again. You can do what you like. I'm not having this lady undermining me in my own business. I'm not falling out with Paul over it, but you can sue me. You don't do any more filming in my bakery. So please, Mary. So, nice bread, Paul. Anyways, and we've got a lot on tonight. Are you staying here to make the bread?
Yeah.
On the plus side, she did like Paul's new loaves.
I remember that episode. It was a brilliant piece of television. But I remember you coming onto my radio show and talking about that, and you did seem genuinely quite traumatised by it as an experience. Like, it seemed to really genuinely affect you. The way that
yeah, because it is, you know, you are dealing with real life here, and that is, you know, it's you know, people's livelihoods, and also there was an element. I got interviewed afterwards, and I remember this interviewer. I try and find out a bit about the interviews before the interview, see what they've interviewed before, and she wasn't, you know, the type that was going to, you know, be lovely and hey, I'm a big fan, and I knew that, and. I went to go for the interview.
What's her name?
It was a big interview. It was a big feature in the Observer, and I remember going, and she wanted to interview me at my house, and I thought, no, I'll meet you in a cafe. And I dressed, and I remember turning the corner, and I had these very high heels on and my rings, and I remember thinking, and she was very kind of sort of North London and pared down. And I remember thinking, she's going to make me a cliche, you know, and and I just sort of tried to pop the rings off and hide my feet, and she just went for me, really, and said, you met your match. You met your match.
She used to talk about being two water buffalo butting up against each other. Was that the expression she used?
Two water buffaloes butting up against each other. It was very lovely. And and she said, you met your match there. And I thought, oh, that is just... And you know that sort of tipping point, because she was full on me the whole time and just not giving me anything at all. A bit like you in this interview, no, not. And I remember thinking, it was that little tipping point of, I just want to leave this, I don't need this, I don't want to do this interview. And when she said to me, you met your match, I thought, I've had to look at this and actually question myself. And I remember looking at Angela, and all Angela did wrong in that baker was that she couldn't let go of control. Control. She had to control everything. And I was lucky enough to have a career where I was able to learn to let that go, because I could have been that person. There was a part of me that could have been that person.
Yes, that could have been that control person.
That control person.
Okay, and I think we'll come on and talk about how you've applied that philosophy to your agency as well. But with that particular show in The Baker, you said, you rang your producer and said, have you got enough in the can? I can't go back in the shop. And the point you're making there is that with those shows, they weren't really about, well, let's film this experience, see where it goes, and we'll put out whatever happens. There was a mould, wasn't there? There was a sort of several sequences, several scenes. They almost always have to have a happy ending. And was that a problem? Was that a moment that made you think differently about television? Because in that instance, it was impossible to follow the format of the show.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to be unfair. I think there has to be a structure. You have to put a structure in place when you're making TV, and there has to be certain, tenets that go in the ground to make the structure for it. It just threw the whole thing up in the air, but actually at some point it was really exciting. So I remember thinking, no, I don't want to, and I really think this will be brilliant if I don't finish this off, and we leave it. That I failed, because I couldn't get through to her, and I couldn't make that happen. And it made powerful TV, and part of me just liked that and thought, God, that feels really freeing, that feels great. And it just opened up, because I was new to TV. Nobody sits you down and says, this is how it is, and this is the world you're going into. And you make TV, and you go out there, and you just think, oh, okay, and you follow, you're guided by the powers that know TV. And then suddenly you think, oh, actually, no, this is how I feel more comfortable doing it.
Do you think those early shows, those shows that are a bit more formatted, was there something slightly disingenuous about them?
No.
As a programme?
No.
Well, you say you had to go and have Reiki. You were genuinely affected by it. When you said you had to go and have Reiki after that experience.
I was genuinely affected.
Because you take someone like Gordon Ramsay and Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. I don't know Gordon Ramsay. I never get the impression that he would really be that bothered outside of the show what happened and how it went. But for you, you really were bothered.
Yes, of course you are. But the thing is, the truth of the matter is that you are dealing with people and people's livelihoods. And there is an element that whatever happens, I'm going to come out looking all right, because it'll be edited. And you have to manage that power. You have to manage that. And the situations as well where you can see people, they're giving you all that, and you think, oh, God, that's just going to edit it out. And they're trying their best to get their point across. Yeah. And you have to manage the situation so that it's as near to the truth as possible. And I do look at those Mary Queen of shops, and they are spot on. They were really, very truthful stories and entertaining. But it was exhausting. It was huge amounts of work. I had to work so closely with the production team on it to create businesses.
Have you kept in touch with how any of those businesses that you turned around?
Yes, we have lunch regularly at the bakery.
No, but...
Yes.
No,
because the other thing what happened was, and the reason I don't is very clear, is this. I made the mistake in the early days of giving my phone numbers, and the minute sales they go, oh, those trousers didn't work this week, Mary, and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do this, and I do take it on, and I was finding myself physically taking it on and emotionally taking it on. I can't do it, so I just go, thank you very much, goodbye. love and light, as it were.
I guess I suppose but those places that you turn around, you change the decor and the way they look and the way they do business, you must be intrigued to know if they've kept your model, if they've kept
No,
you're not
I
interested.
don't, no. I have to move on. You have to move on. I think I would just, you know, I hear, and there's some that you just love. I mean, there's two old hippies in Kingston that were running the home shop that I just loved them so much. You know, I love to hear what was going on in their shop occasionally. But you can't. I'm not, you know, I let it go, it's done.
All right. We're going to move on to talk about the charity shop series. What is different about this? What is it that you wanted to move away from when you moved on from Mary Queen of Shops?
I didn't think like, oh, what do I want to move away from? I think it's an organic thing as well that happens, and new doors open. And I think, you know, the charity shops was just a great, you know, move on from Mary Queen of Shops. What other sector can we do? And Pat said, I'd love to do charity shops. You know, what would you do with charity shops? And once you got into it, it was brilliant for me because I would have never been given the opportunity to do that in business. So here I was taking what were the fusty, dying businesses on high streets that people, if you saw a charity shop, it meant that the high street was dying, you know.
Yeah.
You would judge chicken shops, charity shops.
Yeah.
That was it. You think, oh God, that's the end of this high street.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a brilliant opportunity to think, God, can I do this? And then what a challenge. That's what I love. And there is that element of just pushing yourself into a new arena and thinking, I don't know what's going to come out here. But what came out at the end of charity shops is once I decided what I wanted to do, I just thought, I can't let this go. And so I did, worked with Save the Children, and I've opened up 10 of my own charity shops, which are now the most high-profit charity shops that are in London.
These are the living and giving shops, aren't they? Let's have a look at a clip from this. I think this illustrates how well you work with characters and how you like working with characters. This clip, I believe, involves a vibrator.
I'm going to try out our shop's resident joker, 82-year-old Lila.
Oh, don't start on your sciatica. I've got something just for it. Sell me that.
What is it? It looks like a dildo. Now, do you know, I've always wanted one of these. I've wanted one of these for 12 long years, and I think you'll want one too one day. So I should buy it and put it in your drawer and keep it there.
12 long years. I think you can have that, Isla.
Right. What did that teach you? What did that experience of making that programme teach you? Very specifically.
Well, lots of things. First of all, just what I loved about those women. These were a generation who had duty ingrained in them that my generation don't have, and would turn up to that shop every day. I used to hear the basket go, shh, the door would open, and they'd come exactly at their time. Their tea break was exactly at the same time. Didn't matter how ill they were, they turned up. They served in that charity shop, and they gave. So there was a huge sense of duty, which I just loved. I also didn't want to, I didn't want to patronise them. When you're working with old people, you have to be very careful. And there are times when I just wanted to hold them or walk around with their hands because they were so cute, some of them, but that sounds patronising, so you have to be very careful. But more importantly, I suppose I wanted to bring in a new generation of people that saw that giving back to society was an important thing. And it made me really question what I did. I've spent years, getting people to buy stuff. And I just, my God, that's my role. That's what I've done. I've actually built this, I've funneled and fueled a consumer society. And with this, it just made me think about how we live. And so that's why I started the Living and Giving shop. I wanted to create something that was about us thinking about how we lived and what we give back. Because my generation just didn't. We're a taking generation. And interestingly, the next generation, my teenagers are really have that culture coming into them. They understand, their place in the world and what they do with it. I didn't do that. And through that show, I learned that. And when I started my Living and Giving shops, the whole setup was to think about how much do we need And instead of going through your wardrobe and thinking, oh, I don't wear that, and you've done it the 6 months and you still haven't worn it, and you think, well, I might get some money on eBay. No, don't. You could get some money on eBay. Do you really need that money from eBay? Or will you bring that into a shop? And will you give your time as well? And what it's done is built really kind of sort of great community shops. And it's probably one of my proudest things that I've done.
Is it?
Yeah.
You were talking about sales. I mean, in the end, TV is still about sales, isn't it? Making a television program ultimately is about the numbers of people that watch it. How concerned do you get with ratings?
Of course you do. But I don't think it should be my concern.
Why not?
Because I don't think it should be. I think that's the concern of the channel, and whether they decide whether it's about a great show. We've talked about this. You can have it's like populist brands that sell a huge amount, and then there's niche brands that are talked about and people copy and follow. Yeah. And I love that, and I think there's an element of having your life with bits of each. So, I mean, I don't try and follow populism. I don't try to do stuff that's going to be about... I mean, I could have a show that just keeps going, but I just don't think that's me, and it just wouldn't keep me, excited and intrigued. I love new stuff to do. Of course you think about the ratings and you go, oh my God, is that all we got, but I can't get myself screwed up about that because I won't be me in the end, and I'll just worry about that and we'll lose the sense of what my role should be, and my role should be hopefully being entertaining and bringing new and exciting...
But you do still have to worry about ratings.
Well, I told you I do worry about them, but I'm not, I do. I worry about ratings, Richard.
Okay, thanks.
But I don't think that's my core responsibility.
Okay. Let's move on to Mary's bottom line. And this is, I think, what's interesting about this show is, I think there was perhaps a slight change in philosophy with your programs, that it became less about simply finding really good characters and actually finding people who knew would be good at these jobs and would continue to do the jobs after the cameras had left.
The bottom line was just such a powerful thing. I mean, here's another opportunity that came my way, Colette Foster wanted to do a show that was on, looking at manufacturing. Now, what an opportunity, here we are in this country where we just let it go. Yeah. We just gave it away in our chase for value and cheap. And we just put all our manufacturing out to the Chinese and Asia, and we let it go. And in doing so, communities just fell apart. Yeah. In the same way as is happening on the high street. So once I got into this, it became just an intriguing, incredibly brilliant, interesting subject. And so there was no way it could fall into, right, well, we're going to open up this factory and let's find the best characters. Yeah. They're going to be the naughtiest that go, oh, give us a job and there were some that came in for the interviews and you thought, yeah, that'll make TV gold. But actually, you're not right for the job. And so we made a clear decision that we were going to pick the right people who would work in that factory, and it ended up being very wonderful and very beautiful and very interesting.
Okay, let's have a look at a clip of this.
When you've not got a job, you've got nothing to look forward to. You've got no money. So it's hard.
I'm really motivated to try and get a job so I can make a role model for my son.
Did you have a good role model?
No, I didn't. My dad never worked, my mum never worked.
And do you think that's affected you?
Yeah.
Hey, the thing is, Andrew, you've not had luck much on your side, have you? Come and sit down with me. No? No. So, where'd you get your groovy suit from?
It's actually my friends who lent it to me.
Good. You just got to break this cycle, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's a lovely scene. And you advertised for those jobs. They were queuing around the block, weren't they? Lots of people applied to work in that.
Yeah, loads applied. And he was amazing. He was so gifted. And he's still there, and he trains the rest now. We started off with 7, and there's 32 staff, and it's just think that's something brilliant. That the power of TV's brought. That was TV. That's what's happened through TV for me. And I think, God. And is that entertaining? Well, I think it's entertaining too. Now, should I be worrying whether that gets 3.5 million viewers or 1.5 million viewers or what? That's not my job, and that's why I get back to that. But what was so fabulous about him is, I remember bringing him down to London because we launched the Kinky Knickers in London and we were selling it and all. And we put him up in the best little hotel and whatever. At the end of the day, he looked really sad. He was in my showroom in my office. And I went down, Andrew, you know what's the matter? He goes, I want to go home. And I'd read the situation wrong. I thought he wanted to be in glamorous London. He didn't, you know, and it was just, he just wanted to go back to Brian, his little son and whatever. And, you know, we were taking him here there, and he didn't want any of it. And those are magical moments. We didn't need to find the big, arrogant character. That was just magical.
Do you think by not going for the characters and finding people who could do the job in the long term, obviously gives the project an integrity? Do you think it gives the television programme itself a greater integrity in the end?
Yes, I do. And people remember them. People always, you know, one of the things I did with the knickers is that we put a very cheeky note in it with "Love your country" in the crutch of the knickers. And think about it. And on ribbon. And I got each of the people who made the knickers put their name in. And the amount of people used to send me notes on Twitter saying, oh, mine were made by Andrew, I'm so happy. You know, they wanted him. They wanted their knickers to be made by that guy. So it gave integrity all the way through, you know. And it was a win-win-win. It was good the whole way through. And that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. I want to talk as well, of course, we're going to talk about the Portas review, which... I think I assume this has been the most challenging project you ever had to take on.
Yeah.
And it's met with a lot of criticism. Were you prepared for how much criticism it would be met with?
No. There you go.
No.
It was every day I got up, because I'm a bit like Tigger in some ways. There is an element of me, I go, yes! I just go for it, you know, that's what I do. I get excited by stuff and I think people will follow the lead. I just do that, and then someone goes, you know.
But you must have known that in the end, in agreed to take on the Portas review, you were seen by some people to be getting in bed with the government, in effect. And
that's not a nice picture, let me tell you.
No.
I've just had a visual of that.
But you know what I mean by that. And whenever you get close to government, that's going to generate a reaction, isn't it? You must have known that would generate a reaction.
No, because you look at how many these czars, I hate that, they suddenly call you a czar. Nobody's called you, you're doing a review, a report. You imagine how many reports have been done. This one, for some reason, went...
Because you're a celebrity. Because you're a celebrity.
Kirsty's done housing. Philip Green was doing How to Save Money, I don't know. There's loads of people have done it. There's what's his name from Leon's doing the food one.
Henry Dimbleby, yeah.
Yeah, loads of people do it. Mine suddenly went into this massive kind of arena.
Because, why?
Because it's an issue. The reason it did is because it is an issue. We have dying high streets, and if we don't do something about it, we've got real issues with our communities and the social infrastructure of communities and across towns in this country. So it was an issue, and the thing was, I got rang up by the government to do something else. I got rang up by Steve Hilton to work on something else, and I said, I really haven't got time to do it. It was a project he was doing with Nick Hornby, who was trying to get kids into reading, and they were creating these shops that were all around the theme and really great reading shops. And he said, would you do the design shop? I said, I really hadn't got time. But I said, you've got a bigger crisis than that. You've got a high street that's dying. Because through Mary Queen of Shops, I was travelling the country and I was going into towns and the Knicker programme and seeing just literally one or two shops, one of which would be basement booze, you know, next to a chicken shop. And it was just tragic. And I said, we've got to do something about this. And he said, well, why don't we meet? So I didn't even think the review was going to come out of it. And I met with him, and I was very impressed with him. And he said, God, I agree with you. And the next thing he said, listen, I've spoken with Cameron about this. Will you do a piece of work on it? And so for me, it was, it wasn't, I'm going into government to become a czar. No. And I'm going to, you don't think, so I started to do it. And the more I got into it, the more I thought, it was just the most incredible challenge, and I travelled the country, you know, it was...
But you become associated with a political party, don't you?
Well, you do, they've even written on Wikipedia, I'm a Tory. Who wrote that? And I've never said that. Who's been in this voting box with me?
Are you a Tory?
No, I'm not a Tory. I'm not a Tory.
What are you?
Oh, I'm me. Stop it, Richard. I don't know. I believe in, you know, making change happen, that we as people in this country can make change happen, which I think is the most important thing. I would never do politics. I'd be hopeless at it.
But you don't vote Conservative?
Oh, I'm not going to get into that now, Richard.
Okay. But were you... Let's play a clip and we'll come back and talk about this. This is this actually.
Read your notes.
No, I was just really enjoying that bit of the conversation. But this is a really important clip, I think.
No,
This
because
is
you know what
Margate,
will
and
happen
this
is the press will pick it up. Anything you say just gets picked up and it's blown out of proportion, and that's the biggest issue. And now I don't read it because actually I have a very simple, way that I work is that if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
Did you get hurt? Did you get hurt by the reaction to
I'm
this?
totally hurt by it. Of course, of course you do. Of course. And I remember one was with Alan Rushbridge, the editor of The Guardian, last night was on my table, and I rang him. I actually cried down the phone because I was so tired. I was so tired, and we just had this baby and kids and work, and this another member of press was on it, and just trying to find this angle, on it hasn't worked, the stuff you've done is just, and it was all coming from the other side. It was a political story. And I just went, please just don't do this. I've had enough.
Sorry, who did you cry down the phone to? I didn't quite follow that. Did you cry down the phone to a journalist?
The editor of The Guardian.
To Alan Rushbridge on the phone?
Give me a break. And I remember just thinking, stop it. All I've done is a review and tried my best to give a vision of what I believe the future of the high
What
street
was it that
will be.
really bothered? Why did you cry? What was it that really bothered you about that reaction? Why did it get to you?
Because I had done something that I believed was right, really right. I wasn't political. I had done work that wanted to put communities and high streets back into our country. That's a good thing, I believe.
Yes.
I believe that what I did was made recommendations that were pretty spot on. And they were very, very intense, a year and a half working on them.
Yeah.
And I believe that I was giving my time for nothing over 18 months, travelling the country, meeting with people who were just lost of what was going to happen with the towns, and someone made it political. And someone would speak to, you remember you telling me about the people in Roman Road,
That was hilarious, yes. So you came on Radio Show to talk about one of the streets that you filmed for Channel 4 was Roman Road, which is in the East End.
And
they'd quoted locals in the paper, and there was a piece that was in the Express, and it was really attacking you. And
total double-page spread on complete attack.
And they'd got a local there saying she waltzed in here, but which just, what does that mean? What does that mean, waltz? That just means...
That means I was large in it, I think, really, in any other...
But it's a meaningless phrase, isn't it? I mean, that just means you walked down the street.
Yeah, and then someone else picks it up. And then, really good journalists, I was in Australia, and I was just, the Sunday Times picked it up. I'm thinking, what? Hang on a minute, there's nothing here. And
what happens there, I think, is a journalist went to the Roman Road, which is what I think, with an agenda, and spoke to people, and put together a story that fitted their agenda. Because, of course, they could have spoken to people who said, I met her and she was really nice. I mean, I'm sure that would have been an option.
It's not even about whether I'm nice or not. It's what this has done, this piece of work, has given us civic pride in this country and enabled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of towns to say, I want to make change.
I understand, but the reason I think it was hurtful to you is because in those negative pieces do involve a journalist putting together a story which is predetermined, and therefore that is about you, really, isn't it? They have got to, for some reason, these journalists developed an agenda, it seemed, against you.
Yes.
That's hurtful.
Yes.
And I think to you probably quite baffling because you thought you were just trying to do some good.
Yes.
Okay. Let's have a look at a clip. This is Margate.
Robin, I've been hearing that I'm not allowed in tonight to the meeting. There's about 3 or 4.
Can we turn these off, actually, whilst we're doing it? Because this really isn't fair on us.
What's not fair? Why are you not letting me in with my cameras?
You are. But what's happened is the owners of Woolworths haven't given permission.
But why would you not? I'm documenting this.
It's the landlord is saying they don't want the cameras to come in.
Why is this girl so angry? Why is she not speaking to me? I mean, the whole point, why isn't she coming out now and talking to me if we can't film in there?
You want to come in with me without the cameras and we can talk.
But why? Why do you not want the cameras? What is it that
Robin, you have to stop this. If they're filming, then you're not allowed to answer this clearly, are you, without the cameras?
Do you not want to work with me?
Yeah, we do want to work with you. We've made it very clear we want.
You want the town to?
I would like you to turn the cameras off, please. Can you turn the cameras off?
I'd get annoyed with myself there, actually.
Why?
Because the way that's, again, has been cut, I was like, why? I'm asking. But you've got to see the whole picture. That sounded very annoying. I was annoyed with myself. I'd have said, go away.
Do you think you were being a bit too pushy there?
No, actually, because what we haven't been able to do, and the thing is, you have to condense it down, is this had been going on for months. This was like stopping, and it was a core few, really not very nice people. really not very nice people. Not only were they not very nice, they were very clever and not very nice, which is a horrible mix. And so they would go to the press and set the stories, and poor old Channel 4 were the lawyers on it, you know, it was very clever. And then they'd set the story, they'd ring the Times, Sunday Times, and Sunday Times will pick that up, and then they'd ring another paper, and they'd set these stories. So when we came in, by the time we got there, it was just beyond exhausting.
So you, just to be clear, what you're saying here is, in Margate, you came across some horrible people.
Yeah,
you just think
a
they're
few.
really-
Let me just, because again, we'll get that as a headline. A few horrible people I came across. Most of them in Margate were fantastic and wanted the change.
And some people are horrible. And were they, I'm not asking you to
That
name
sounds
them, but are you
because I
talking...
actually don't believe in... I remember getting asked in one of the Guardian interviews, is there anybody you despise? Because I don't actually. I rarely dislike anyone, really rarely. And, but I did meet some horrible people. But I remember answering this question and I said, no, I don't despise it. But there are a couple of people who could do better, Robert Mugabe and A.A. Gill. And I remember ringing and saying, because he was really horrible about me. Actually, that's a story I have to tell. My very first...
Robert Mugabe or A.A. Gill?
Well, I never met Robert. Robert and I did never meet. But you talking about press and getting used to it. My very, very first series of Mary Queen of Shops, and I remember Pat saying, you know, to me, oh, really, don't worry, you know, the reviews, you just if anyone writes anything negative, don't think about it. And you think your very first series. And I remember sitting down on Sunday night, I had a little glass of wine, I opened up the culture section, thinking, they write lovely things in the culture section, and I'm reading, flicking through, and suddenly this is a massive review on Mary Queen of Shops. One show had gone out, and I'd only been on television for all of like an hour. And it was the most heinous review I'd ever read.
What sort of thing did he say?
I can't remember. He described me, and it wasn't. It was. Do you know what? I have blocked it out of my mind. There are bad things that you do. It was so bad. And I remember having the glass of wine, and I remember calling Mel. Saying, Mel, have you read the... I couldn't even speak. It was so horrible.
Is your partner Mel?
Mel, my partner. But it was A.A. Gill who wrote it, and funnily enough, I bumped into his mother the other day. And I didn't know it was his mother. And she said to me, welcome. We actually moved into this house. She said, welcome. You know, well, really lovely woman. And I met her again, and she said, oh, you know, we'd love to have a cup of tea. And I thought, oh, God, well, she's lovely. And then someone said, that's A.A. Gill's mother. And I was like, oh. Anyway.
Why do you think he was that heinous?
Because there's a culture in the media at the moment, in reviews, where you have to be really clever and you have to have a side. That is the way most reviewers now write, especially on TV. They don't do it so much in film or the arts or theatre, and it's got to have an edge. And he's an incredibly talented writer. I mean, he's funny, he's clever, but it's just not the truth. And it's not, and I've read others on it, it's not just me saying this on, and it's this culture, there's this slightly sociopathic attitude that the TV critics have to write. And it's really true. Well, I don't think he's got an emotional filter, because I would not be able to sleep at night if I wrote what he wrote about someone. And I don't think
when you say it's not the truth,
it's not the truth.
What does that mean? I don't know what that
because
means.
They're not really telling you what the show's about. You read the reviews. If I read a theatre review, I really genuinely get a good insight into whether I'm going to go and book tickets to see that show. Okay. If I read a film review, I generally... Somehow, the TV critics, that goes out the window. I'm sorry if there's any in here tonight. I'm sure some of you are really lovely. But somehow, it just goes out the window, and you think that's not... And what I find myself, it's not just about my shows, it's other shows, thinking, oh, but I really want to know what it's about. I want to know whether I'm going to tune in and see that. And it's become sort of an art form now. You know, the sort of... The writers like, you know, Julie Birchall or Liz Jones on the Mail. It's like...
What are they like?
You're clinically mad writing that, you know, but you're mad. But they write it, and people pay it, and people read it.
Has Liz Jones attacked you?
Of course she's attacked me. I think I'd have failed if she hadn't, don't you?
Have you blocked that out?
No. I think I find her totally entertaining. I know what happened. She actually wrote this thing. She reviewed my show when I did Mary Queen of Frocks. And she actually started the thing saying, I like Mary Portas. And I thought, oh, my God, you know. And she wrote this whole review, and she talked about making clothes accessible to people. And then on the show, she said they were too expensive. And like, she was sitting there in her McQueen, from head to toe, you know. And I made some sarky comments, so she came down like a bag of snakes on top of me.
Would you say anything to A.A. Gill about what he wrote if you met him?
Oh, no, I really don't care. I really genuinely don't
Yeah,
care about A.A. Gill. I just wanted to put it out there because they edited it wrong. And they didn't put Robert Mugabe in the edit.
No.
They just put him. So it didn't make it as clever.
Yeah, yes,
See?
yes.
You had to have Robert Mugabe in there because then it just went, oh, that's good.
I wanted to ask you...
Well, I thought it was good.
What I wanted to ask you is, we're going to come on to your next show, the OAP series, in a minute. Just on the Portas review, that project, taking on that project, that's an enormous project. The idea attempting to essentially turn around the British High Street. I mean, it is always just more or less impossible, right? It's because it involves changing consumer behaviour. It involves really changing the way that we interact with and the development of technology. It is almost like trying to reverse the flow of a river.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Look, every 50 years, how we buy and how we live and how we consume changes. You go back in history. Go back to, I always talk about the Greek Agora. What was the role of the town? It was where you met the people of that town, where you socialised, where you voted, you know, where you went, groups would huddle together. We are humans, never forget we're humans. You forget that and you take away the core part of our high streets and our towns. So in the Greek Agora days, you're around there, you're socialising, and some little clever bloke sees a crowd, so he comes along with a table and he starts selling stuff. Outgrows the market stalls. Then someone thinks, oh, I'll make that into a shop. And the market stall moves away because a little independent shop comes along. Then along comes a department store, says, I'll put that all under one roof. All moves on, okay? Now we've got the internet. What we now need to do is to look at the role of the high street and taking into consideration all the other things that we do in our life. And the role of the high street will not just be about selling, because we've got the internet that's taken a huge part of that. What the internet hasn't taken is this. You and I meeting. You and I, do you remember we bumped in the street in the fruit and veg shop?
We did.
Right, Richard? And then we met the editor of Heat in the fruit and veg shop. And then we said, oh, we'll have a little coffee. And we sat down, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
That is...
We just live in a really ordinary part of
it's
Britain.
ordinary. It's run down, I know.
Yeah.
Needs terrible help, that high street.
Yeah,
but that doesn't matter. That's not the case. That can happen in any town. It doesn't matter where you're living.
Because we live in Primrose Hill, Mary, and that high street is lovely and it's spending a lot of money.
Yes, but
the economy can't sustain posh little fruit and veg shops in Barnsley.
That's not what I'm saying. So you've jumped. You should be writing for the Express, Richard. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. If I'm living in Barnsley, and let me tell you, I've been to Rochdale, Rotherham, all those places, and whether they write that I'm a lovey wherever I'm living, I grew up in a working class area, and that infrastructure that the high street gave me was powerful and important in my life. What I'm going to fast forward to is, it's not just about shops. So we need to look. So say you're in Rochdale, you need to look at that community and you think, what does this high street need? Now, if it's got a huge youth, why don't you open a youth centre in the middle of that high street? In one of the ones I was in Bedminster, we opened up a creche. This woman opened up a creche because the people couldn't afford to have nannies or to have childcare. She opened up a creche, she called it Bubba Hub, genius. It was a little idea that I put roughly into my proposal, and she took it and ran with it and made it brilliant. Opened up a creche, and it's a shop at the back, so you brought in your kids' clothes when they grew out of them, and we know how quickly that happens. Yeah. You swapped them, or someone sold them, you paid £3 for a coffee, and you could sit in there all day. So what was happening? These women were coming and putting their kids, popping off to the shops, socialising, and getting money for their clothes on second-hand. Win-win situation. No, that's not Primrose Hill. But it's another way. And why shouldn't those people have that on their doorstep? Why shouldn't they have a place where they can go to?
But to get that up and running across the UK, in high streets across the UK, to make that happen effectively and work effectively across all of the decaying high streets around the United Kingdom, I'm saying it's an almost impossible job.
It's not my job, but it's not my job, and it will require massive structures. But already I've got big businesses involved in helping. There's lots of bodies that we've pulled together. It's happening. I mean, I'm just there as the word campaigner, which I hate, but I'm just there to just highlight it and keep pushing it. And it's down to the government, it's down to communities, it's down to people in their towns. And what's now happening in 480 towns, there are town teams, there are people who are pulling together to make this happen and negotiating with landlords where there's rents that's empty. Can we take these shops? You will see something come out at the end of this. If someone had said to us 20 years ago, these high streets are going to be peppered with coffee shops. You're going to probably spend about £5 a day on coffee. That's about £20 a week. You'd go, don't be ridiculous. It happened. So what will happen, there'll be an organic level of it, but there will also be people thinking, I care about this, so we're going to proactively make it happen. Don't give up on it.
Do you regret taking on this project?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Not
It's a really, really, really important piece of work to do, and I'll continue doing it. I hate the fact it's become political.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I met all of the Labour, I met them all, met all the Labour ministers as well, sat with them, and in fact put their recommendations, some of them into it. So it's become political and it's silly. But you know what? The public don't do that. You meet the public and they just don't even listen to that.
Except you did meet some horrible people.
I met some horrible people, yeah.
Did you meet horrible people in towns apart from Margate? I mean, is this similar to the Baker story, where basically there are just people who are resistant to change, and you're always
Yeah,
going
but
to come up against that?
people are resistant to change. That's the way it is. And you know, most people are just fantastic. The great journeys you go on, they're just, you know, most people come up to you in the street and go, yeah, it's fantastic. You've got to take the good with the bad. You know, it's a bit like reviews, you know. The good ones go to your head, bad ones go to your heart. So you have to just go, am I doing what's right, you know? And I'm becoming a bit of a hippie. I've had to, you know. I'm kind of going, oh, am I doing what's right? Because that's all you have to get back to.
Okay. Let's have a look at our final clip, which is your forthcoming series, Mary. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this next series of yours?
Yeah, this is looking at one of the biggest growing demographics is the aging. We've got an aging population, and really, I know, without sounding like some sort of marketeer lovey, you know, 60 is the new 40, but people are really becoming younger and healthier, and most people are going to be living into their 80s, and so they're retiring, and lots of elderly people are finding themselves lost, really lost, nothing to do, and their sense of themselves getting lost, and their identity, and their sense of worth. So I've set up an agency called Age Against the Machine, and for people who are saying, well, you know, I can do that. You know, I'd love to do some gardening. I used to be a gardener, or I was a builder, and I'm still fit, or I'm an entertainer. I'd love to get out and, you know, and pulling them together. And I've got this agency ran by people all in you know, their 70s, 80s, some in their late 60s, and we're giving them gigs and jobs. But the core of it is not only about giving them work and giving them a sense of themselves. It's actually getting them to come back together, to socialise, to meet, have a sense of purpose. And it is just extraordinary. I mean, I love it.
Do you?
Yeah,
I think you're the core of it.
I love it.
Do you know what else you do, I think? You probably prolong lives, don't you? You know, if you have something to do, something to care about, something you're engaged with.
But they are... it's incredible. But what I've learned is, you know, these people... You'll see one here. Are you going to show this one now? And I'll tell you about her afterwards, because it's just... This is Phyllis, I think.
OK, let's have a look.
Ours is the back one, so we've got to have a cloth.
Why do we need a cloth?
You don't take things out of an oven without...
This isn't an oven, it's a fridge.
You know, we've been cooking. Oh, this is resting, isn't it? Because, well, I wondered where the bloody things were. Never mind, Mary, you'll remember me forever. That'll be something.
Okay.
I'll go down in posterity. Well, on Wednesday, before I came here to you, I went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And he said it's facial cancer. Now, Phyllis had to come here to you after being told that. So if that isn't a person of strong personality, I don't know what is. I don't know what is.
You're a star, Phyllis. And you ain't going to go anywhere until I've had a few more months and years with you, that's for sure.
That does look like a lovely show. Tell us what you wanted to say. You want to say something about her?
Well, you know, we all try and find out, like, you know, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm like thinking, oh my God, I'm aging. And they don't even, there's two things I've learned from them, is they don't even think about age. They don't even think about it at all. And nor did they, which is interesting. So I don't know whether I'm going to live because I do think about it. But the second thing is they're curious. And so they always want to just do something new. They're curious all the time. So doing this and setting these new challenges for them has just, it's been food to them. they're also terribly non-PC. And
what sort of things have they said? Oh, will you include that in the show?
well, this is the thing, because I don't know. I was chatting to Jay about that last night. Well, one I've got to be careful how I repeat them, because honestly, some of them, you're just like, stop it now. But the other day, so we're sitting, and I had the builders, and there was this carpenter, he's really kind of posh old bloke in his late 80s. And we had this lovely runner who came over with a cup of coffee, and a little gay guy, and he gave the cup of coffee to him, one to me, and I was just sitting there chatting. The little guy runs off, and then he turns to me, Rob, in the elbow, and said, "Do you know, I don't think I know any queers." And I just, and he said, "No, tell a lie. I was approached on Marylebone High Street by some old queer, and I soon stopped that one, and I just, what do you say? Oh, you can't say that.
No,
you know, you can't, and it was just, I think that could stay in, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know about
Do
the
you
other
want
one.
it? You want it to stay? Because that's.
Well, the other one was a little bloke Stan. He's about 92, and he was a music hall act. And oh my God, he's about that big, and he was pitching his songs to. Look, they're shaking their heads in front row of mine. I've got to say it because it's true. There's nothing wrong. I mean, it's like, and he said. Pitching his little songs to do this event. It was for a fashion show, and they wanted like this musical mix, and the client turned up, and it was these really glamorous black girls, you know, that would look like Beyonce and Rihanna coming in, and there was Stan singing, oh, in the corner to them, and at the end they loved him, and he went, "Oh yeah, those blacks, they always love my singing." And I could see the camera crew were like, "Oh," and when I told Mel, did you say to him you can't say? I said, well, no, I can't say to him you can't say that. Do you know? And he said it from his heart. There wasn't any offence, but.
So therefore, I mean, I think one of the things of this has been about kind of integrity. I think, in a way, in your show.
You'll all be waiting to see if that stays in now.
Doesn't it sort of have to stay in a way, for the sake of the integrity of the show, in a way that's kind of.
I don't know. There's a lot that doesn't stay in because you can't. I don't know, and you have to balance, and one has to balance is the sort of repercussions and you know, and him within it as well, you know, because there's some people that might be offended by him saying that, and then that's unfair on him, you know, and so you have this responsibility, I would imagine, that you can't just chuck in everything.
Yeah, let's just in summary, I just want to ask you about what the key things are that you think you have learned about television. You've not really been making television that long, have you? So just about what you have learned so far from the shows that you've made, and I suppose broadly what you think the industry can learn from your experiences and how it should change at the moment.
I don't know, I think that's such a big question. I mean, I don't think, you know, for me it's been an incredible journey that I've been able to do stuff that just would not have come my way, and I think that television's highlighted that brilliantly, and I think it's been a very powerful medium for that. I don't think there's any other medium that could touch that in terms of getting a word out and getting messages out. I think, you know, one's always wary that it doesn't come across as campaigning, you know, and, you know, that television, I often hear them say, oh, this can't be a campaign, and you think, well, it's not a campaign, it's just real life and something I truly believe in, you know. And I think less of that is coming onto the screens now, like, I'm on a mission to change, and you think, oh, stop it. I can't take another I'm on a mission or I'm a campaigner. So, but it can reflect real life, I think, brilliantly. And so, but for me, I think the things that I would say is it's letting control go a bit and letting it breathe, because real life is just extraordinarily fascinating, and it happens. And, you know, there have been times where you're filming and you feel the sort of breath of, we've got to get this done in this way, and you just think, no, it doesn't have to be that way, because always something magical comes out. With people. I mean, that's for my shows, it's about, you know, interacting with people most of the time and just getting what you see on screen out. So for me, it would be, we talk about control. I was telling you my Jamie Dodger story.
Yeah, just tell us that, because this is about you relinquishing control.
Yeah, so I think, you know, what I was was giving an analogy on when, you know, I'm not there to control TV shows. I'm there to you know, co-create something with the production company and the channel. But I often would find that, you know, sometimes you felt there was a breathing down the neck of the director, you know, that they had to deliver a certain way. And I think when you put a director in, or you sign off a TV show, then you need to create very strong parameters, but then let that go and then see what comes back.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always talk about, and it's that I often give sort of lectures to businesses on control, but managing your brand, but also letting people breathe within it. People think that I'm quite controlled, but I'm actually not. I've learned over the years not to be, and to pay people well, give them the job, but give them the parameters. But my biggest sort of wake-up call was once I was had my agency, and I was working with a very, very, well, Louis Vuitton, probably the most famous luxury brand in the world, flying over from Paris to have a meeting with my staff. And I turned up to the meeting, and as I walked in, there were these 3 very, very slim, black-clad Vuitton, women sitting for the meeting. And on the table, my team had put out a jug of coffee and a jug of oranges and a plate of jammy Dodgers. And I was here advising the greatest luxury brand in the world on their brand, and all I could see were the bloody jammy Dodgers just waving at me. And all I just kept thinking is, who's put the jammy Dodgers on the table? And now, I let that control go, you see. And that's what happened. But, so as I came out and I said, did you see the... And of course the French don't even touch it. They wouldn't even touch whatever it was. They weren't going to eat anything. But that just kept on like waving at me. And it was quelle horreur moment. And I walked and I said, who put the jammy Dodgers on the table? Said, well, the receptionist did. And I went over to the receptionist. And there's no way I could go to the receptionist. You're an idiot, putting the jammy Dodgers on there, because she thought they were nice biscuits. To her, they were expensive. They're jamming them. But they were. They were that. If someone said, she said, I love jammy Dodgers. But no one had sat with her and said, this is a luxury brand we're dealing with. We are advising luxury. Here's the parameters, and this is the guidelines.
Okay.
I don't know whether that was the best story, but it was funny.
No, it's a funny story. It's a very funny story. So it's sort of you relinquish
well,
control,
no, you relinquish,
but you
but you should have told her in the first place the parameters, and then you relinquish it.
Marvellous, Mary. That was absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Portas.